is someone you really respect and look up to, comes over to you and pats you on the back and say, hey, you did really well there, then it works 10 times as well as if you just say it to yourself. And of course, if we're serious about this, we can become each other's mentors. So we can build a little group of good friends that make a point of talking each other up, lifting each other up verbally, and that works really well. Just it doesn't have to become sugar sweet, because if it's sugar sweet, then it doesn't work. I don't think it should only be when somebody actually does well and somebody actually moves their own boundaries a little bit, that somebody else that you respect comes up to you and say, hey, you did well. Really helps. And then you remember it next time that he does something, and you turn it around and do it for him as well, and you can build each other up like that. So little mentoring groups like that is a super tip to have. My voice is going, I'm not used to talking so much. I work with Skype and chat. Yeah. I've been mixing things around a little bit, but it's probably worked all right for me. So, when I've been organizing the Nordic Open competition, I've generally made a point of reminding people, because sometimes what happens in a competition, especially if the weather is not very good and we don't get to fly a lot, then sometimes what happens is people start getting frustrated and then they start protesting. And as soon as somebody is protesting, then somebody else is going to be protesting against the protest, and then it just expands and it turns into a vicious circle of protests and bad vibes. And in a competition like that, nobody's having fun. So it's super important when it's something that I try to make a point of at the first briefing in competitions is don't spread bad vibes. Don't, because at the end of the day, there's almost always a good reason for a protest, and there's almost never a good outcome of a protest. So that basically means that you don't really accomplish anything other than being protested yourself, or being super frustrated because they didn't uphold your protest, or as soon as you start in that sort of behavior, then it tends to expand and everybody gets a miserable time, not least the meet director, who is me. So I try to ask people to think very hard before they actually decide to put in a protest about anything, because generally it doesn't help anything, and it has to be very grave. I've only ever put in a protest once, and it didn't help anything. I just got more frustrated anyway. So it's another example of not letting yourself be pulled down by all the negativeness that is around you, and we really want to avoid that. I'm going to round this off a little bit with a short talk about talent here, because that's something quite interesting that I've been reading about recently, is that what we call talent, when you analyze it, is basically just hard work. And the way that the guy who discovered this found out was that when he looked at ice hockey teams in Canada, it turned out that all the players on the top league teams were born in January, February, or March. Now, since he made this discovery, it's become common knowledge in sports generally, and people who have boys or girls playing in soccer or football or bandy or ice hockey, they know it now that the kids who were born in the first 3 months of the year, when they're 10 years old, they are maybe 10% bigger than the kids who were born in August and in September, October, November, because kids grow really fast at that age. And if you're doing something like ice hockey or football, it's important to be big and strong so you can tackle the other guys. And it turns out that if you get spotted as a talent when you're 9 years old, then obviously you get all the good coaching and the good training, and you get to play basically just a lot more than the kids who didn't get spotted, the kids who were basically a little bit too young to get spotted. And so they get to develop what we call their talent a lot more. And that means that the whole idea of talent pretty much falls on the floor. Because if all the good players were born in the first 3 months of the year, then talent has something to do with the stars or the planets or something like that. And we don't accept that in our rational society. I don't accept it anyway. So talent is basically about practice and training. And what he later did, the same guy, was that he analyzed super successful people from other sides, walks of life. And he looked at Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and it turns out that they were luckily born at the exact right time to be at the exact right age to be interested in computer programming at the crucial time when you had to be interested in computer programming to make it in that world. And they both had access to computers at a time when nobody else had access to computers, because there were only 18 computers in the world or something like that at that time. So again, it's something about talent, not just being talent. It's about actually having the opportunity and getting the timing right. And that's good news for everybody in here, because it means that if we have the opportunity to practice and we then go out and practice, then we can all be talented. And that's what we want, isn't it? It's basically what it's all about, because you'll be safer and you'll be having more fun. There's a lot of tired faces around the tables in here. So I must be really boring. And my voice is going anyway, so I'm going to stop now by saying that much of what I've been talking about is explained in a little bit more detail in here. And I would be super happy to sign copies for people who are interested in getting some. And I brought 7 or something like that, so you've got to be real fast. And thanks for listening. Yeah. Yes. One book for you, yes. Yes. Go, 300 each. That's a bit too cheap, but I didn't realize the slot.